Hey guys, welcome to another video on the Inside Spurs Show. Happy Tuesday morning to you all, and happy Tuesday morning to Thomas Frank, who, according to Fabrizio Romano, has been announced and agreed to become the Tottenham Hotspur manager. But is it the case? You'll see what I mean in just a second. We've got a conflicting report. Oh, I know. We're going to be talking Antoine Semenyo, the Bournemouth winger, as well, talking about that, how this rumour has sort of resurfaced as time has gone by. Someone that we've spoken about before on the channel, amongst a few other things, if I'm honest. But yeah, we're really here to talk Thomas Frank. That's the most important thing with it all. Morning, D, Spurs, Steve, Sean, Steampunk. How are we all? Look, let's talk first and foremost the report from Fabrizio Romano, who has said that Thomas Frank will become the new Spurs head coach. Here we go. Agreement done with the manager on contract terms and staff. Brentford set to release Frank for a fee in the region of 10 million. He is the replacement for Ange Postecoglou. So that's just come out from Fabrizio Romano just before 8 a.m. this morning, about 2 hours ago. Just on the face of things, obviously, you know, I think even people that are very Ange, right, they totally now understand he's gone. You got to move on now. Life moves forward. Life moves on. And I think for the most part, we're all supportive of Thomas Frank. I think we all think he is a good coach. We're going to be talking a little bit more so about him as a coach, style of play, systems, formations in just a short little while. But evidence speaks for itself, does it not? Actions speak louder than words. And Thomas Frank is a guy who has taken a Brentford side from a lower league, brought them up, stabilized them, you know, has lost good players as time has gone by at Brentford, and they've always managed to replace or even improve. You know, they lost Ivan Toney. I think they got better this year, if I'm honest. He is a good coach. He knows how to improve players. He knows. Also, the other thing I think about Thomas Frank is he is massive on culture. Andrew was always massive on culture as well, but Thomas Frank is also that. And at the moment, Spurs in that squad, you know, you see everything that's come out from those players surrounding Andrew leaving. There is a real culture there. It's been built, it's established. It's taken a couple of years, but he has done it. You know, we went from being, you know, a club and squad that hated one another under previous managers to a squad that wants to play for one another and play for the manager. Thomas Frank is another one of those kind of guys. He's massive on culture. His players love him. He speaks very highly, quite often, of players as well, which definitely doesn't hurt. And I think, look, we're all aboard the Frank train, and we should be. And we should absolutely be on board with it. You know, no matter if you aren't, you know, maybe Iriola was your number one guy. Maybe Marco Silva was your number one guy. So regardless of that now, the new guy is here. You now need to back the new guy. You now need to give him undivided attention, 100% of your support, and you back him to the hill. And that's the way I look at it now. What's happened has happened on Friday. We get by, we get past. Now, with Thomas here, full support. Full support to him. You know, he's going to need it. He is walking into a job where it looks like it could be difficult. So he is going to need all of our support to make it that little bit easier. You know, I know that at times we as fans think that Daniel Levy doesn't care about us. Well, don't cut our noses off to spite our face. Back the guy who you'll see it with Thomas Frank. He will be 100% honest. He will be 100% loyal. I mean, he's loyal for a very long time to Brentford. And I see that some Brentford fans are a little bit upset about him leaving. And I get it, because it's always like, it's your star guy leaving. You know, we had it. You know, we had it with players like, you know, Bale and Modric and Kane leaving. But I don't think any of us truly begrudge them leaving, if I'm honest. I think for the most part, Brentford fans won't begrudge him. There's always going to be a small minority, but for Thomas, you know, he's been loyal. He could have left in previous years as well. I know that he was linked with Chelsea, he was linked with Manchester United, you know, he's linked with Aston Villa, and he stayed. There was obviously that talk that his assistant had always talked about Spurs, and if we were to leave Brentford, it would be Spurs. Well, he has done it. Now, the conflicting reports come from Lyle Thomas and Sky Sports saying an agreement between Brentford and Tottenham for Thomas Frank has not been reached yet. Talks are expected to continue this morning over conversation. I can't lie. I'm going to believe Fabrizio Romano more than Sky Sports. I don't think Sky Sports have been good for a very, very long time on transfer reporting. They very much live off of everyone else and what they say. They kind of copy, regurgitate, reword things to suit what they think is how to break transfer stories. I'm not going to take anything that they say as gospel. For the times that they used to be a tier one, I think they're probably more so tier three now. Just super irrelevant what they say, unfortunately. Fabrizio's come out and said it. How many times did Fabrizio get things wrong? And that's the way I look at it. And that's the way I think we should look at it. But look, we're going to talk a little bit about Thomas, his style of play, what he likes, what he looks for. But there was that game that earlier last season where he's like, hey, I know they're not having the season that they wanted, but I mean, look at their front three. Most teams in the league would want their front three. The midfield of Kulusevski, Bentancur, and Basuma is absolutely incredible. Pedro Porro has Trent-like qualities. He was very, very, he was gushing over our players. And well, Thomas, gush no more, my friend. You get to be the manager of these players. And I think these players, we talk about how Romero probably wants to follow Ange out the door. And I get it. And we'll talk about Romero in a second. We're just going to push that aside for a second. But for the most part, players understand that it's a business. Players understand changes happen. And a lot of those players who maybe are worried about it, they're getting a manager coming in who has raved about them as an opposition manager. Like I said, he raved about the midfield, Bentancur, Basuma, and Kulusevski. He raved about, he wanted Johnson. He wanted Archie Gray. He raved about, Pedro Porro. I mean, he's raved about these players and now he gets to manage them. So I think he's super excited by that. We're going to talk about as well a little bit around what we think needs to happen from ownership to Thomas Frank to help him and give him an opportunity. But how do we feel? Are we feeling happy? Are we feeling, pumped about this? How are we all feel? Let me know in the comments and everything, chat for yourselves. But if you're watching this back, let me know how you feel about Thomas Frank. Monica Kabara and Liam and Boris and Bob, Gonzo, Spurs Chat Daily. Kate, how are we all? Spurs Chat Daily. Ooh. That's a dreadful thing to do, is to talk Spurs Daily. I do it. It's dreadful. I'll always appreciate Ange and what he's done, but again, we're looking forward now, and I'm happy he's here. I am happy he's here, and what's nice is that it's happened quickly. We're already 10 days into the window. I know the window technically shuts today for 6 days, but let's be honest, the window doesn't really shut. Okay. 6 days, like, you know what I mean? It's a holiday. You turn back to normality in a few days' time. So I'm happy it's done. I'm happy he's here. There's a lot of work for the higher ups to do this year. Johan Lang needs to have a big summer this summer because he wasn't great last summer. He needs a big summer this summer. Daniel Levy needs to have a good summer as well. He has consistently crapped the bed across the board on multiple different things. He needs to nail most things this summer, the majority of things this summer. We'll talk about that. J-Mac, Joshua, how are we all? But yeah, Thomas Frank's a good manager. He is a good manager. Let's talk about Thomas Frank and what he's all about. People talk about the 3-5-2, the 5-back. His main formation is a 4-3-3, but can feature in a 3-5-2. So for the Spurs fan to have a obsession and wet dream about a back three, you might get, sporadic viewing of that. It's not something he plays every single game. Don't worry about that. Defensively, looking at it, and again, you've got to remember you're Brentford and it's Tottenham. The quality of players is different. I don't think Spurs fans would accept a back five very often. I really don't. A back three is different to a back five. Okay. The back five is, we're going to sit back and have 35% possession. That won't cut it. I can promise you it won't cut it. We sacked a manager on a European trophy, he did something like that. We sacked Antonio Conte, who consistently played like that. Mourinho didn't even play like that as much as the others did, and he got sacked for deemed boring football. Nuno, same thing. So I think every now and then, sure, but I don't see that being something that Spurs fans would get on board with. But in terms of, defensively, they can also set up in a 4-5-1, which I think for the most part, Spurs genuinely do a 4-5-1. Obviously, if we're pressing high up, it's a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-4, but a 4-5-1 is quite frequently what you see from Spurs. But occasionally as well, they will move to a 5-3-2 when they're in their own half. Again, it depends on really who you're playing. If you're against a super narrow team, then a 5-back doesn't work. If you're against a super wide team, then a 5-back might work that little bit more, or a 4-5-1 might work that little bit more to handle width. So again, it all depends on the players. In terms of a high press, they do high press. They press as a team. They press in pockets and triangles and squares. Brentford are a very, very smart pressing team, very good pressing team. The idea is to press, get the ball when you're not having to break down the full team, and counterattack with quick turnovers. They're very direct in how they played. The ball gets forward quickly. Again, remember, you're dealing with a different system. You're dealing with different players at Spurs. It doesn't always work like that. But what I'm saying is, in terms of Thomas Frank and Iriola, to be fair, they all play similar styles of football in terms of pressing. It's, how often do they press? With Iriola and Ange, it was, frequent. It's, we're sprinting everywhere. We're going to try and be the fittest team in the league. Thomas Frank, I think, is more so here and there. But when we press, we're going to press. Okay, so I think that's exciting in that regard. I don't think we need to press 24/7, but yeah, we'll sort of see. We're going to talk about 60 minutes. So we'll talk about Paulinho because I saw something about him. Sean with the super chat, absolute legend. Sean is absolute legend of this community for sure. Legend in the group chat, in the Oso Spurs group chat, but a legend in the community. But thank you very much, Sean. I don't have another. Do you know what? I need to bring a drink with me next time because I don't have one again, and I failed. I failed you all. Adventurous is going to kick my head in for not having a summer fruit squash. Apologies to Adventurous as well. Great move for both parties, in my opinion. I'm interested to see who we can attract in the club window. We'll talk about that in a minute because we have some updates. Milton, how are we? And a 4-2-3-1 as well, multiple tactic. Well, the other thing I would say is about all of the systems. I'll come to it in a minute. Let me read a few more comments and I'll talk about systems in a minute. You're all missing the point. Ange finished 5th in his first Premier League season. On that basis, he's Premier League proven. Next wins a trophy. Issue is he threw the Premier League to win the cup. That is called pragmatic. We're not talking about Ange, George, mate. We're gonna try and give all the flowers and support to Frank. All right, mate. Like the cat of his jib, hope he plays attacking football. I think a lot of his back 3/5 came because he had to manage Brentford. We'll talk about Semenyo in a bit in a hype. More of a coach than Ange. Let's see who he can get improve the squad. Again, let's not beat down Ange for I don't get. We're a weird group. Why we intentionally target former managers? Do you want me to do it about managers that you love? Do you want me to target and break down and scold previous managers for being inept? No. It benefits no one. We're in the present. We're here. Come on. Let's back Frank. Ange's over here now. That's in the past. That was last week. New week. New manager. Let's back them. And if anyone wants to attack Ange, by all means, just leave. I'm not interested. If you want to scold a manager that's not even here anymore, not interested. Please leave. Because it doesn't benefit anyone. It just benefits absolutely zero to be living in the past, live in the present. Got a new manager. Let's be excited. Let's talk players. Let's get excited. Jesus. Ventress, how are you? Frank's proven manager on limited budget. Music to Levy's ears. Brentford, he played a 4-2-3-1, but against bigger teams, played back 5. Appreciate it. Quadruple G. G. Absolutely, Sean. It's time to look forward. Support Frank. Absolutely. Praise Ange for bringing us a trophy, but let's talk about Frank. Come on. Let's talk about Frank. So there's a little bit on in terms of his pressing. We will still be a high press team. Maybe not as high as we were under Ange, But I think when we do go and press, it will be intense. I can just say that. Dominant centre back is a big thing. I think Mickey van der Ven would improve in terms of his physicality and his under the ball or high ball defensive work. I do sometimes look at Mickey van der Ven's under the high ball work and think that needs improvement, but he's still young, he's still developing. Whereas you look at Romero and it's just, he's a monster. And I think Romero will be a monster for Thomas Frank. Now, will he be here? I don't know. But, players like Pinnock, Collins, Ben Mee for a little while, these guys were dominant in the air. They very rarely lost those high battle duels. Ethan Pinnock leads the league in aerial duels won at 22 this season, an 84.6% success rate. So physical, Thomas Frank will want a physical side. He will want a side who, look, we won't work with 40% possession. If that's what is going forward, it won't work, and he won't do that. I know he won't. We will be getting on the ball still. We'll be playing our stuff, but we'll also at times, which I think one thing I would say is obviously in previous managers, we've either been too passive or too aggressive. Frank, I feel like we'll find more of that balance where at times it's like, right, we're playing direct, bang that ball into Solanke, bang that ball into whoever's playing striker. Let's play off them. And I think Solanke will take a more of a playmaker route this time around. You bang into the ball to him and we're going. When he did with Visser, we're going. And Buemo, we're going. Pace. I think Johnson will benefit a little bit from that. But yeah, in terms of when they're defensively more pinned down, they will drop into their own half. Mostly they use a 4-5-1. So, a Visser or an Mbuemo would be the one. The midfield three, all very, very, like when I look at PSG with Fabian, Vitinha, and João Neves, there's no real creativity there, right? There isn't. But they can press, they can tackle, they get after you, they're going to kick you a little bit, which in a way is a good thing. A couple of Portuguese guys, they're going to kick you a bit. But when they get the ball, very direct. That ball goes to Kvara, it goes to Doué or a Dembele or a Barcola, whoever it might be. Ball straight into them. We're going. We're rocketing. We're flying. That is something I think Spurs are going to be a little bit alike. We're going to get the ball, and the ball is going to go flying forward as soon as we can. Let's get players in space. Let's get players, with a bit of space around them to run into. I think that'll be massive. I think that'll be absolutely massive. In terms of fullbacks, in terms of defensively, they're aggressive in the wide areas as well, which I think is good. I think that's going to really suit Porro and Udogie, by the way, even in a back four. I know some people, again, have a wet dream about them playing wing back, but in a back four, they are aggressive. I think they're going to benefit from that. It's an aggressive defensive team. They will get into you. They will kick you in a good way. I always talk about kicking you in a good way. They will kick you. They will get involved in battles and in duels. And that's why I think Romero would massively kick on as well, like he has for the few years. Every year he gets better. I think he would do it again. It's big Kev Dancer, in my opinion. That's going to be the big one defensively that I think is going to benefit the most. Which sounds a bit weird, right? It sounds a bit weird that, in theory, a third centre back is a guy of defensive centre backs are going to benefit most. I really do think he will, because we haven't really seen Kev play out from the back as much, but he can travel the ball, he can play out from the back, but he is good in the air. He's physical. He's a big guy. I think he will benefit from Thomas Frank's style of play. Owen's happy. Crikey. What are the new objectives next season? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. I think Frank's offensive. May get some players on side because of it. I don't see him pushing us past top 6. Overall, I think it's uninspiring, but we'll stabilise our league position. Well, we'll see about that. It did say he likes to dominate the ball and press. Absolutely. I've just realised PSG weakness is set pieces, apparently. Yeah, we've got this thing. Spurs fans got this thing about apparently Thomas Frank is this set piece genius. Obviously, I know it's not him. It's a coach. And of course, Spurs had no set piece coach last year, by the way. If you're one of those people, please do your research, because we did. And we improved a lot this season at set pieces. We were good at attacking them, and defensively, actually, we were one of the better teams when we had fit centre backs, by the way. So if you're one of those people that goes, we weren't very good with Ben Davies and Archie Gray, shut up, get out, you freak. Defensively, we were very good set pieces. Now, could he take us up another level? Would love that. I would absolutely love that. It's like when people talk about that Italian set piece coach we had. He was really good for about 3 months, and then we did nothing for the rest of the season. You know, people like to fit things into their genders. Morning, Simon. How are you, my friend? MS, how are we? Dragosian could improve. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think in that back three, look, Dragosian is going to need time. We know Dragosian is going to need time. You know, if you're one of those people who, if Dragosian comes back for the first time and plays 10 minutes and he isn't amazing and you slag him off, you're a problem in this world across the board. You're unrealistic. You're just abusive and rude, really, because the guy's had an ACL injury. He's going to need the rest of this season once he comes back to get up to some form of speed that we're happy with. Now, if he comes back and hits the ground running early, phenomenal. Oh, absolutely amazing. Medical marvel. But, you know, if you think he's going to come back and he's going to be this absolutely unbelievable centre back, and if he isn't, we should sell him, you're a part of the problem. But I think he will improve. Absolutely. Absolutely. Morning, Azza, how are you? You think Danso's more of a unit than Romero? Yeah, maybe, but Romero knows how to use his aggression properly. I think maybe that's what Danso can improve on. Not Osman, no. Folks really think a Prem team don't work on set pieces. No, we never did. We never did. Wait for someone to go, didn't you hear Eric Dyer say that we never did tactics? Jesus Christ. Shoot me. I was sporting Frank happy to be wrong. I hope they allow Frank to bring in his own assistant coach as well. Yeah, again, we'll talk about that in a second because there's still so much more to talk about. Attacking principles, Brentford are known for their grit on the break, set piece superiority, and ability to claim surprise goals against the best in the division. Brentford are, I talk about in the Europa League how against Bodo Glimt and United, we set traps, they fell into the traps, and we pounced on it. That is Brentford to the absolute T. They will, like I said, they're not going to pressure all game. They'll pressure here and there, and they're smart about when. They set up in a 4-5-1. They're going to lure you in. They're going to set traps, and then they're going to go. And once they've got you in that trap, they are very direct. It's Mbuemo turns, pace, runs wide. You're pulling a centre-back with them. Visser goes through the centre. Damsgaard, whoever it might be. They're very direct. I mean, this season they've completed the fourth most long passes of the season behind Arsenal, Brighton, and Man City, who have more possession than them. So it shows when they get the ball, it is going into space and it's going quickly. Let's talk about PSG. PSG do it all the time. Right, we've got the ball. Dembele's running down the channel. Bang, we're playing a 35-yard pass down the channel to Dembele in space. What you do from there is a bit different. But it's always how, like I said, with Ange was going to get you to the box. What you do in the box is up to you because obviously he can't be there to hold your hand, but he can get you there. They use the keeper as like a third centre-back when it comes to possession and playing out from the back. So Vicario is going to be needed in that. They play a 2-3-2-3 shape as they enter the opposition's half. Rotating side triangles. I think a doggy is going to be massive in that. You'll be surprised. He will probably get really far forward this year, further forward than our winger at times because of the overlaps or underlaps. But yeah, switch field balls, Johnson or to Sonny, or whoever the left wing is, Tell. I think Tell is going to improve a lot as well. It's fascinating what they're going to do. But yeah, set pieces wise, long throw-ins. I don't think Spurs have got anyone that's for long throw-ins, but they've got long throw-in takers at Brentford. Offside traps from attacking set pieces. They position the players at the end of the opposition's zonal line to allow for headers across the box. So actually, that's quite interesting. It's not even the first phase of a set piece. It's actually the second phase from a set piece that I think we're going to have a lot of interest in. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be a ton of change in regards to how we do things under Ange to how we do things under Frank. I think there's going to be some twists. I think there'll be some twists, but I don't think there'll be huge changes. Like I said, we won't press like we do under Ange. I think we'll scale that back 10, 15, 20%. And then when we do press, there's a lot of energy. We're going to hit and hit hard, and then we're direct. And I think the other thing is width. Width is a big thing. We play wide and we play wide quickly. So I think that's what we could go with. So let's sort of see. And in 12 months from now, how do you think our overseas will be included? I think we get out of the league phase in the Champions League in terms of go through, not go out. In terms of we get through one of the domestic cups, quarter semi-finals, and I would need to see something like top 6 personally. And I don't think that's crazy. I'm not asking him to win trophies, by the way. We're told to be a top 6 club and we should be in the Champions League. That's top 5 normally, I know. But I would say top 6. Yeah. And I don't think that's crazy to ask for, by the way. I don't. Because Ange won a European trophy. I wasn't demanding the top 6 with it. Not going to win the European trophy this year. It's the Champions League. We're miles off that. And I'm not asking to win a domestic cup. I'm expecting at least one domestic cup run to be half decent, minimum quarters sort of thing, which again, is not mental. It's really then after that, I think, he needs to be top 6. But again, let's talk about the players that he's going to need, because he's going to need some players. Frank has told Spurs his chance targets. Hopefully we'll start seeing some business getting done ASAP. Again, there's a report on that. You paid Werner trash 200 in wages. No, he didn't. And also, paying a guy on loan to paying 70 million for a player. It's two very different deals, bud. Come on. Real world and all. Come on. Think about it. Andrew's left a good platform for Frank to build on. He did all the grunt work and digging the foundations of the rebuild. Yeah, absolutely. Build off of that. If you go to bad start, Levy should be the target of the fans, not Frank. Levy is normally the target of the fans, but you're right. Frank is going to need time. I will continue to repeat this all through this summer until we play our first competitive game, right? He is going to need full support, even when things aren't great. So if you're one of those fans who we would lose our first game of the season and you're calling them out, just stop. You're helping no one. You're not some sort of great fan for slagging him off because we've lost a game. There's going to be some good times. There's going to be some bad times. There's going to be some kinks that he needs to iron out. And there's going to be some things that he needs to get through. And he's going to have to play through those. And he's going to go through times where we might lose 3 games in a row. And you know what? That's normal. That is normal, okay? So bring your expectations down to a normal level with the rest of us if you're one of those people that isn't. And just support the manager, because he's not going to win every game. Spoiler alert, managers don't win every single game. They don't win every single trophy. We aren't entitled to demand such things. We're not Man City. He is going to need full support. He's going to go through periods where we're not going to win a lot of games. But on the back end, I have faith that we will continue then to build off of those periods. We're going to build off of what happened in the last 2 years. In terms of the foundations, we're going to build and launch, but sometimes it might take a little bit of time. Are you patient enough to give the manager that time? For a lot of the fan base, I'd say yes, they are. For some, the loud minority, especially on Twitter, aren't. They're unrealistic. They demand to win a quadruple 3 games into the season. So, full support. Full support. EPL out, can we apply to La Liga? Definitely not. I'm not counting the Super Cup as a competitive game, by the way. Oh no, I am. It's Super Cup is I count the Community Shield as competitive. I think that's a trophy to win the Community Shield. I don't get the idea that it's not. The Super Cup is the 2 best teams in Europe this season, which by the way is going to annoy people because they're the 2 teams that won something. By the way, that's why I think it is a competitive game for me. You've got your friendlies lined up. For me, it's competitive. Like I say to some folks, Levy is the main problem, but so are some entitled and impatient fans. Just need patience. We just need patience. So let's talk about going forward, really, with Thomas. Now it's about kicking on and it's now about kicking on and now about supporting the manager, bringing the players right for him and making sure that he has full support. And we need to make sure that obviously we keep developing. Okay. Now, first and foremost, where is it? Semenyo that I want to talk about. Right. Yeah, here it is. So, Lyle Thomas from Sky Sports, again, not sure about this. Sourcing's a bit iffy. It says exclusive. The Tottenham have been stepping up their interest in Antoine Semenyo, but Man United are still admirers of despite the Embuemo bid. I mean, Man United are admiring about 3,000 players, but they don't have the money for it. So try and ignore that bit. It's an interesting situation brewing between these two players and the two clubs. I think there was another report saying that he likes Man United, but he prefers Champions League football. We know that Semenyo rates quite a few of our players as well. So, again, I like Semenyo. You know, I think in the Frank system, when we get wide quickly, we're direct and we're a pace, he would suit that immensely. I actually think he would probably suit it more than he does with the Iriola system at Bournemouth. I mean, looking at this year for Semenyo, right? You know, we talk obviously Embuemo. I still think Embuemo winds up at Manchester United, by the way. So again, factor this in. We're not going to be signing him. But I mean, this season, across all competitions of the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the EFL Cup, Semenyo played 42 times. He scored 13 goals and 7 assists. So a goal contribution every other game, basically. In the Premier, 37 games played, 11 goals, 6 assists, so 17 goal contributions. You know, to be fair, the EFL Cup, he played 1 game, no goals, no assists, but he played 22 minutes. So if you want to remove that, then it's 41, 13, and 7. I like Semenyo. You know, I know that some people, maybe he isn't their cup of tea. I think he's a good player. I think the ability that he has as a very direct, powerful runner, I think super suits Thomas Frank and his system. It's one of those that I think he would do well in this system. Now, AFCON is a thing. He does play for Ghana, just an FYI, and I assume he would play for Ghana in the AFCON, unless they're not in it. I didn't check. Wasn't really that bothered. But because I think Embuemo will wind up at Manchester United, I don't look at Semenyo as like a bad option to go for. I think he's still a good option. I think he would give us something we don't have. You know, a really direct, powerful runner. Again, like I said, he would just suit what we are doing. He would suit what we do with our wingers, you know. So I like him. I like him. Now, it depends on cost because obviously I would expect him to be upwards of 40 million, probably around 50. And the irony for me is if it's more than 50, then I would probably say maybe not. Could you get better value? You know, I also think that the other thing as well, the key thing is try not to look at players being signed and their values as if we're trying or not. Because like I said, Desi Doggy was 13 million. It's one of the best left backs in the league. Yeah, Bergval's 8.5 million. He's one of our best players. Pape was 13 million. Bentancur was less than 20 million. You know, not every player needs to be 40, 50, 60, 70 million. They don't need to be. You can still, I mean, Ryan Cherky, 22.5 million. You telling me that he's not good enough? Ait Nori, 35 million. You can get players under the value of 40 million and that are good. So with this guy, again, it depends on how much. Now, you know, obviously Eze is the guy for me, but this is, I think, is a guy who style-wise, I think Spurs could do with, if I'm honest. Direct, powerful, you know. We don't really have enough of those players. And you know, we've got players at the squad that maybe right now will improve and change play style to suit that. I'm not saying they wouldn't, but yeah, I'm quite keen. And what are we thinking of Semenyo? Are we liking Semenyo? You think he's a good player? Do you think he's a bad player? What are we thinking? Morning, Sonia. If we missed out on Buemo, I would definitely take Semenyo. There you go. Bakayoko's an upgrade on Johnson. No, he's not. Still think there's more to come from Odobert. I agree. Saudis are also interested in him. I don't think he'll go there. I think with most players of like his quality, like look at Nunez, a couple of years or whatever, he could still go to Saudi, you know. Does Frank play his wingers more centrally and wing backs go up and down? No, his wingers play wide, but it depends. Again, all of these questions that you have, it really depends on who's playing. he adjusts in terms of, look, if they're a really narrow team, then we're going to play wide. If they're a really wide team, we'll play narrow. If they're a high press team, we'll play long. If they're a low block team, we'll push up against them. So it really depends on who you're playing, Does other than that, Vicario's 30. Well, yeah, Vicario was cheaper. Yeah. Good news aside, getting players in the position we need. Let's go. So absolutely, Polly. When will Premier League fixtures be released? It's still a little while yet. No, it's not this week. Next week, I think it is. Players' price is problematic when Levy signing checks. Nuno Mendes is back up for a doggy. Nuno Mendes is ridiculous, isn't he? The guy had Lamine Yamal the other night in prison. It was mental how he just dominates every winger he plays. Johnson is about to do the funniest thing, isn't he, in the Super Cup? All of these unbelievable. By the way, Johnson scored yesterday for Wales. Great game, by the way. Belgium-Wales last night. 4-3. What a game. By the way, bold of Wales to leave De Bruyne wide open from 6 yards out. Bold decision. Bold decision is all I'm going to say. But yeah, no, Johnson, all these world-class wings. Oh, look at Nuno Mendes has locked them up. And then Johnson comes along and just goes, here's a back post tapping. He's about to do the funniest thing. But Andy, we could be the Tenerife hotspot. Awful. Who do you personally think we get? Well, let's talk about some other names in a second. We're going to talk about Paulinho in a second. Would João Pedro be a decent signing? Absolutely not. Not interested in him. 60-odd million for a pen merchant. No, thank you. We could, do you know what? Just go and get Roberto Soldado. He'd cost absolutely nothing now, and he's a pen merchant. Also, just research some players that we're linked to, because there's always something that you might go, oh, no, definitely not. Just not saying anything, not accusing anything. Just do a little bit of research, and you might come across a couple of things. Mendes is a machine, absolutely. Johnson tapping. Brennan Inzaghi. Oh, nice. Brennan Inzaghi. Oh, you already know. Poacher. Fox in the box. Fox in the box. Yeah, I want to talk about Paulinho because we talked not long ago about a valuation that came out from. It was about 30 million, right? I think it was about 30 million. And, Man United, they're reportedly considering João Paulinho. Apparently, you can get him for about 25 million. I was really thinking about João Paulinho in terms of, in an Ange system, wouldn't work. He would not work in an Ange system. I think he'd be eaten alive, chewed up, and spat back out. But in a Frank system, it's a bit different. And this is the beauty of all of our transfer reportings, right? I could look at a player under Ange and go, whoa, what a player he is. Oh, this, that, and the other. And under Frank, I go, oh, he wouldn't do as well. I think he'd struggle with this. I think he'd struggle with that. Paulinho in a system where, especially if you need to be a bit more compact, where you're not going to be as high up, because you're not having to cover as much, territory, he could do it. Now, I would hope that the deal's cheap. I wouldn't always be no more than 30. Absolutely no more than 30. The guy's 30. Isn't he 30 next month? 2 max 3-year deal. Yeah, people talk about a dominant 6. Again, just be wary. He loves a yellow card and he loves fouling. But I think he could be a player. I think he could be a player for us. I think in a Frank system, because with our midfield, I talk about PSG's midfield, where there's not really a 10, is it? It's 6s/8s with Fabian, João Neves, Vitinha. By the way, Vitinha, what a player. My God. The more I watched him all season at PSG, I watched him play for Portugal, and I'm like, is he Portugal's best player? And I'm like, well, no, is it Bruno? Is it? No, that's English media. It's Vitinha. Vitinha is their best midfielder, and it's not even close how good Vitinha is, which, by the way, you will see him in the Super Cup. And when we do the preview for PSG, I'm going to be raving about players like him, Fabian. I saw Fabian's linked to Saudi. PSG would be silly to get rid of Fabian. He's fantastic. But regardless, on Paulinho, in that midfield 3 that we would have, where you could have a 6. You could play him alongside Bentancur because we like a couple of really dominant centre midfielder options. And there'll be times where James Maddison maybe won't be in that midfield because, again, it's good to have rotation. And maybe, those midfields we looked at with Ange where they lacked a bit of creativity, they would probably work under Frank because Frank, in their midfield 3, doesn't always do the creativity. Now, when Damsgaard plays in there, that's Maddison. That's an upgrade on Damsgaard. Grand. Flying. Maddison's going to take a good leap this year. Stays fit, obviously. But in the midfields, when we've had like Bentancur, Basuma, and Sarr, there's no creativity. Sometimes we all sort of go, where's creativity coming from? In Frank's system, we're not going to build up slowly. Like Porro is going to, the amount of times you watch Porro this season get the ball and it banged forward 40, 50 yards straight away, like without fail. This ball is effing flying upfield. So that's why I'm saying in a midfield 3, he would work Paulinho. If you've got a couple of Duracell bunnies next to him with energy, defensively, you'll be quite solid. Absolutely. Douglas Luiz on a Frank. What is going on with him at Juve? I don't get what's going on with him at Juve. Surely he's moving on. He's on good money, though. Isn't he on like 250 grand a week? Not sure. No, I personally do. Leao does my head in because Leao has all the talent in the world, but he's had a really poor year this year for his standards. Paulinho is very good, but he's almost 30. He's not quick. Okay, if we defend deep, but not a highlight. No, he couldn't. When I talked about Paulinho for Ange, I was like, no, not interested. Not the player that we need. Paulinho under Frank is a different system. It's a different midfield. He would work way better under Thomas Frank. Again, a little bit of experience here and there doesn't hurt. I know Spurs are looking at sort of 23 to 27-year-olds. He obviously doesn't fit in that mold. He's a little bit older, but he is a good player. He is Prem proven. Again, it depends on contract length because obviously at some point we're going to need to get off these players that are on longer term deals that maybe aren't good enough and how much the initial transfer is going to cost. Because if it is 20 to 25 million, I think it is probably worth a punt under Frank. If it's 35 and above, no thanks. I think we can do better. PSG midfield, what Andrew's trying to explain to folks about our midfield, yeah. But then again, our midfield at times was too slow getting the ball forward, and that's not PSG. They recycle quickly, or the ball is rocketed forward. Manu Kone, yeah, I don't think we've been linked to Manu Kone. Don't think so. No, I don't remember. But he is a good player. We'll sort of see that. Now, that obviously, look, on Thomas Frank, there was something else that I wanted to quickly bring in that I forgot to talk about. Let me find it. Hang on. They were talking about plans. Yeah, highly unlikely we hijack and Buemo. I get that. Semenyo hasn't ruled out moving to Man United, but he would prefer to join a Champions League club. There you go. Was it TBR football? No. There's something on Jack Grealish as well that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, it was TBR football, I think it was. Let me go to them. Yeah, Thomas Frank wanted guarantees about how Tottenham would operate with him. Frank will not have the final say on every deal, but he wanted to be a part of the process and Spurs to have agreed to this. Well, of course. I would hope we do collab with our manager who's working with these players. Okay. I think a manager should have a say in transfers. Now, I don't think he should have the final say. I think the final say obviously goes down to the guy paying for the deal, which obviously our guys made an absolute hash of that quite a few times. But he should have a say in the sort of makeup of the squad. He should have a say in who goes and who. Actually, he should have all the say on who goes. By the way, all of the say. He's the guy training, working with them every day. In terms of players coming in, there should be a collab. Johan Lang, Frank, scouts, data-driven systems. Coys Daniel. They should all have a say in it because a collab will make sure that you weed out the ones that you shouldn't have, right? And then you go, right, well, this one's really good. Do we all agree? Right, he's really good. Right, this is someone that we all agree is really good. Let's go for him, Instead of half the group liking him, including Daniel Levy, and manager hates him. Let's not do that. It's not. Yeah, we need to stop being about club signings. We should be about system and manager signings. It's massively important. I think Eze do good on a Frank coach. All you want the players to have to show it on the pitch when it's not expected. Well, yeah, fair enough. Eze, I like Eze. Again, Eze, how would he suit in a Thomas Frank system? You know, if Thomas Frank was like, look, I like him, but you know, I think we can get better, and I think we can get more. I think we can get more for less. Then you don't go for Eberechi. I'm Eberechi Eze and Tottenham. I'm the biggest person I think talking. I've talked about him for years. Of like Eberechi Spurs, Eberechi Spurs, Eberechi Spurs, right? But if Thomas Frank doesn't want him, then that's it. You give the manager what he wants. You know, if you want success and the manager goes, I need X, Y, and Z, then X, Y, and Z is what you need to give him. You don't give him, you know, tea. He might give him tea, might give him a little cup of tea, but you know what I mean. As team trainers, you're expecting these scenarios, but in a real game ain't gonna be what you coach and training. Into where? Into where? You're talking about F1? Into tires, into intermediate tires to the wet tires. Another midfielder is Frictor Frasalt from Copenhagen. I think we talked about it not long ago, Joshua. Yeah, we'll talk about Grealish in a second. Our drill coaches, but you can't predict what the opposition are going to do, setting up to what your face is pointless. Just got to do better at what you're good at. Okay. Anyone think we should try and buy Rashford? No, absolutely not. PSG, good midfielders with ball. Yeah, absolutely. A weakest thing last season was Cam. After mass injury, we were doomed. We need a clear number 10. Well, again, Felix, you know, is Frank going to be using a number 10? If he's not, then we don't need to. That's the thing you need to be wary of. It's, you know, under Ange, we probably need another 10, but we might not this time. You know, he might go, actually, we'll get enough creativity from that midfield area from Madison. Then obviously you might get Kulu, you know, he might use Kulu further forward, or he might even think Bergval's got enough there, you know. So they don't I don't think they really use like an out and out 10. I think they use a guy that can play 10. You know, Madison's more of an out and out 10 that can play elsewhere. So I think Madison will pop under Ange. I do. Not Ange. Frank. I think he'll pop under Frank. A couple of Danish players will arrive. Heung-Min of Froholt. Heung-Min's a contentious one because of his Arsenal affinity. Eze Dansgaard as Madders cover. You do know coaches only coach the basics. Okay. Expensive with a guarantee. Maybe. Apparently, we've got a Premier League footballer in here. I'm not coached, but you could put me in the Spurs team and I could play better. Oh, we've got a Premier League player in here. Oh, interesting. I would expect, though, actually, there's something I was talking about. I'd expect Thomas Frank to have a conversation with Tees Tell soon, because I think that deal was progressing and there was chatter, but obviously Ange being gone, Ange was the guy that brought him in. There's a conversation to have there, because obviously it's only an option to buy. It's not guaranteed. I think there's a conversation to have with Tell. I think Tell could do quite well under Frank, actually, thinking about it. I think he could really do well on under Frank. But again, if he wanted Ange, he wanted Ange. So there's that. On who is it? Satvik. Which player do you think will find it difficult under him? Which player do I think will find it difficult under him? That's a great question. I feel like Richarlison could maybe struggle. I feel like Odebear could improve, but I think Odebear would need to be better with his finishing. That's something that maybe over time he'll improve, but may struggle with at first. Yeah, I think that's probably what I'd go to. Yeah, we'll sort of go see from there. I'm quite excited for Frank's tenure. Just see what tactical setup he goes. Well, many different setups. You know, like I said, The 4-3-3, the 3-5-2, the 5-4-1, the 4-5-1. And then obviously, like you'll see it in terms of build-up play. The formation is fairly fluid. Like I said, it was like a 2-3-2-3 or something ridiculous I said earlier. I felt ridiculous even mentioning it, but that is part of his way of life, you know. I think Son was struggling under Thomas. With Sonny, it's about just making sure we stay fit. If we stay fit with Sonny, there's no way Vissa or an Embuemo is a better finisher than Son. It's about making sure that he stays healthy. But again, it's a conversation that Frank will have with all the players you would expect, you know, how he's going to use them, what he's going to look for going forwards, you know. You think Richard could back to Everton would get Branthwaite? I like Branthwaite. I think Branthwaite would do well under Thomas Frank. Frank shows them with video evidence, then he has the chat. Then he has the chat. Can I pull? It's like Love Island. Thomas Frank going, can I pull you for a chat? Sonny much goes. I think Sonny's age is a little bit overblown. It's the injury problems that are starting to come. That's where my concern is. Get healthy. You get a healthy Son, he's still a player. I mean, evidence this season in the Premier League alone, you know, if you're one of those people that love Sane, Sonny had the exact same goal contributions as him in the league, playing for a lesser team. So, no, I still think, why Juventus in the Club World Cup? Am I missing something there? I still think he's a good player. The goal contributions speak for themselves. The stats all speak for themselves. Get him healthy, get him fit, great player. The key thing is now making sure you manage him a little better, making sure we don't run him into the ground. That's the key thing that I mean, look, having 12 injuries or whatever is never going to help, and you're going to have to play him 3 times a week, and he's going to suffer. But when we do have health, when we do have a squad that's fit, use it properly. In the long run, it's massive. You know, through that winter period when you're playing, you know, every 3 days, because that's what happens in England. You play every 3 days. That's when you really need the health of the squad there. So even though you're, you know, in October and you're thinking, well, we're not playing that many games, they should all be able to play all the time. Yeah, let's not run them into the ground. Let's be better there, you know. Morning, gentlemen. How are you? Who will you prefer, Spencer Porro? Porro, he will. No, Solanke won't struggle. Sane's not levels above Son. No. Son had 8 goals, did he? Okay. Semenyo will do well under Frank. Yeah, I agree. We need Sonny to be our Luka Modric, be a super sub. He would actually do better at striker with Thomas. That's just me, though. Ironically, he would actually probably do better in terms of, you know, the counter-attack side at striker. Yeah, he probably would. I was thinking Dragoshin. Again, with Dragoshin, it's just, can we give him time? Can we give him time? If you can give him time, then and get him healthy, then sure. But he's going to need once he comes back, he needs the rest of the season to get healthy, get fit, get confidence, you know. So we'll give him time. That's the key thing here. Geez, this Frank Sexual's a very happy human. Son's fine. All right. Any more bits of drama or news to talk about? Osman's dreaming of Manchester United. Oh, it was Grealish, wasn't it? That was one I want to talk about. Jack Grealish. Oh, where is it? Hang on. Grealish. Yeah, Ben Jacobs. I already sort of reported something like this about him. But Spurs are understood to hold a genuine interest in signing Jack Grealish. Spurs are likely to add another side forward, even with Matisse Tell expected to remain at the club. I like Grealish on a punt, on a year long. You know, anything longer than that, I'm a little bit worried about it. His age, you know, his age and wage. You know. Again, with Grealish on 300 grand a week, Spurs obviously won't be paying the wage. I saw a report is like they wanted 50 million. It's like, Yeah, and I want to be 7'4" and I want to play in the NBA, and I want those big NBA contracts. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But on a years long loan, I don't see the issue. I think it's worth the punt. I think actually, we know Grealish, when he's got the shackles off him, is actually still a very, very good player. Now, obviously, with him, it's like with Son, picks up niggling injuries. You need to make sure you manage the minutes properly. But yeah, I don't mind it. I would probably do it. I'd probably do it. Bremo Brennan super sub. Um, both of them as super sub. One of them would start, you'd think. There is, yeah, with obviously this year. This year is a World Cup year, so players are unlikely to move in January due to making sure that they're settled at a club to get into their national teams. But in the summer, this is what I'm saying. I expect the summer for all clubs to be much busier than it would be in January. January would be very sporadic, rare sort of transfers because players don't want to move. It's just normal. He'll get crucified. Christ alive. It's a bit deep for Tuesday morning. Also, one thing that is we'll have drive is one at all. Well, yes, yeah. To be fair, again, he wants to get into the World Cup squad. So yeah, it's a huge risk. Any more than that. Expectation to get higher with players. Fair enough. I've seen a question about the Sky Sport just concerned living players report. Is it real? Well, look, I don't think the players are happy Ange's gone. They loved him. No, but I also think they're professionals. This is a job. For us, it's a hobby and an enjoyment, but for them, it's a job. They'll understand that players come and go. They didn't want to invest to get better. More news on yeah. I talked to my earlier, Carl. Sane Grealish rather bring back Bale. Well, he's right there. It's an old shirt, but he's right there. Grealish should be a good option off the left as backup for Madders. Well, I just like Grealish. He's yeah, I like him. Andrew Wise, yeah, absolutely. Get better if you want to get better. I always want. If I'm ill, I want to get better. Yeah. Do you think Romero stayed? No, I think he's gone. Oh, he's gone. I still think Johnson is underrated for his own product. 11 goals in the league and didn't take penalties. Unlike Mbuemo took penalties. Yeah, well, again, I think the players could change game to game depending on who you're playing. Absolutely. Like I said, the system's going to change. I think the players could change. Well, Archie Gray playing Frank's system. Well, knowing Archie Gray, I think the only position he's not played is goalkeeper. So I think that's up next. Frank also wanted him, and yeah, absolutely did. And Romero's gone. Yeah, I think Romero will be gone in the summer. Tom Diet and What a Night and Bilbao, absolutely. Appreciate it, Polly. He's a bit of a maverick, a bit like a Timu Gasser. Tony Fruk is one of the top prospects yet to move from Croatia, similarly to Modric. 11 goals, 11 assists. Interesting. Would I be happy with Branthwaite in place of Romero? Probably not. But then again, I think Romero and his qualities that we have, there's not many footballers in world football that can do what he does. So I guess it's just being realistic that you're not, you sell Romero, you're not replacing him with a Romero level player. Yeah. No word on tell yet. No. Romero, Stan, and let's calm. Well, and with Romero, it's difficult. It is. Like, I know that he loved Ange, and there was obviously all those articles that came out, to Spanish media, but I know that Atletico maybe not. They signed Clement Longley. He signed 3-year deal. Well on Clement. Started for France the other night. I don't know how that's possible. But with Romero, again, it's 2 years left. He's not going to sign a new deal. Will Levy cash in? We're back up Van de Ven. Yeah, we do. Can't place Romero because he's that good. You just have to get someone in that's necky. Yeah, well, it's again, it's making sure you have competent bodies to be able to rotate with. Losing Romero is massive, but life will go on. Sadly, as much as I don't want to go, obviously, I'm a massive fan of Romero. Life will go on. It always does. I can't tell you much. Oh, Jesus, Steve, that's terrible. That's terrible. But anyway, thanks so much for joining me this morning. I've got stuff to do. I've got to go see people, get things done, Should have some nice, cool updates around my personal life, at least, coming up. But look, thanks so much for joining me this morning. Please go and enjoy your mornings, your afternoons, your evenings, wherever you are. Thank you for all your likes and comments and subscribes. Absolute legends. And I'll speak to you probably more so tomorrow, talk a lot more about Tottenham. Take care, everyone. Peace.